welcome to the Right Number Prop Show, presented by Dead Money Sports. I'm your host, Jesse Flynn. Well, we've reached the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. 4 games this weekend, 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. In this episode, we're going to focus on the 2 games this Saturday. First game is the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The second game is the New York Giants taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now in our first matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs, for my first prop, I really like Isaiah Pacheco over 48.5 rushing yards. Now these 2 teams did meet earlier in the season. In that game, Pacheco had 16 rushing attempts for 82 yards. So he went well over this number in his first meeting against Jacksonville. And in the last 9 games, Pacheco has gone over this total 8 times. So he's clearly become the number 1 option in Kansas City's rushing attack. And I really think he'll have no problems going over 48.5 rushing yards, particularly if Kansas City is holding on to a lead late in the game and they're looking to run out the clock. They're clearly going to go to the ground game, and I think this is where Pacheco could certainly get some yardage late in the game that helps him get up over this total. So the first prop I like for game 1 is Isaiah Pacheco over 48.5 rushing yards. Now the second prop that I like for this game is Trevor Lawrence over 16.5 rushing yards. Now, in the first game between these 2 teams, he had 4 rushing attempts for 24 yards, including 1 run for 18 yards. And I think if we see Kansas City playing man-to-man coverage in defense, we could see Trevor Lawrence use his athleticism and his legs to gain yards on the ground, particularly if he's going for like third down conversions or if it's late in the game and they're trying to get back in this game. I could certainly see him going up over this total of 16.5 rushing yards. So for the second prop for game 1 of the divisional round, give me Trevor Lawrence over 16.5 rushing yards. Now our second game is the New York Giants heading to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. Now this is also a matchup of 2 teams, divisional rivals. They've played each other twice. This will be the 3rd matchup. Now the last matchup between these 2 teams, the New York Giants rested most of their starters. So the statistics from that game are really hard to judge, particularly on the Giants' offensive side and with Philadelphia's offensive side because they weren't going up against the Giants' number 1 defense. So really got to look at those stats with a grain of salt. But in this game, for the first prop, I like Miles Sanders to go over 74.5 rushing and receiving yards. In the first matchup between these 2 teams, Sanders had 144 rushing yards alone, so he went well over this total just on the ground. And over the season, he's gone over this total of rushing and receiving yards 9 out of the 17 games, so a little over 50% of the time. And I think he's going to be a big factor in this game. I really like him. I like him to go over this total on the ground. And if he does have 1 or 2 receptions, he's not really big in the passing game, but I expect him to have more than about 100 yards on the ground. So I think he'll have no problem going over 74.5. So the first prop in the New York Giants Philadelphia Eagles is Miles Sanders over 74.5 rushing and receiving yards. Now my next prop for this game is A.J. Brown's longest reception over 25.5 yards. On the season, he's gone over this number 12 out of the 17 games, so he's clearly the deep shot threat in this Eagles offense. And in the 2 games where he faced the New York Giants, his longest receptions were 33 and 37 yards, so he went over this number in both of the times that he faced the Giants defense. And like I said, we know he's the deep shot threat. I expect him to get at least 4 explosive reception opportunities in this game, 4 deep shots by the Eagles offense. And if he catches one of those, he'll clearly go over this number. And he's also good at breaking tackles and yards after the contact, so he could definitely take a shorter pass and get yards after the catch and go over this number of 25.5. So my next prop for the second game on Saturday is A.J. Brown over 25.5 yards as his longest reception. Another prop for the New York Giants Eagles is Isaiah Hodgins over 4.5 receptions. This is plus 120, so you're getting plus money on this bet. He's had 4 or more receptions in his last 6 games. He had 8 receptions in the first playoff game last week against the Minnesota Vikings. So he's clearly becoming Daniel Jones' number 1 option in the receiving game, and it looks like they're dialing up pass plays for him, and he's finding ways to get open, and Daniel Jones is looking for him. So in a game of this magnitude, Daniel Jones is going to look to the guy that he trusts the most in the passing game, and it looks like Isaiah Hodgins is taking that job. So my next prop in the Giants-Eagles is Isaiah Hodgins over 4.5 receptions. Now my last prop for this game is Daniel Jones, anytime touchdown scorer at plus 200. He's had 7 rushing touchdowns on the season this year, so he's definitely gets his number called down there in the red zone. And last week, they did call a quarterback running play in the red zone that got Daniel Jones into the end zone, but the play was called back on a penalty. So, and then they ended up running the ball on the next play with Barkley. So he had his number called in the red zone last week. The play was taken off the board for a penalty. So it's obviously in the arsenal to call Daniel Jones running plays in the red zone. And again, it's plus 200. So I like the odds and I like the payout if he gets it done. This is a big game. You're going to call the plays that you feel the most comfortable with. And Daniel Jones has shown that he's willing to run the ball in the red zone. So my final prop for the Saturday second game is Daniel Jones, anytime touchdown score at plus 200. So those are the props I like for Saturday's 2 games of the NFL Divisional Round playoffs. Hopefully we can make some money on these picks. Enjoy these 2 games. I'll have another episode coming up with my prop picks for Sunday's games, so don't miss out. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Hit the notification so you get notified whenever these videos drop. Thank you for watching, and I hope everybody out there makes a lot of money.